The Florida Gators coaching staff is known for their evaluation, and oh my God, they've done it again.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free as in the podcast and on YouTube. Happy Wednesday. I'm Brandon Olsen. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI. Today's episode of Locked On Gators is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. And we've been doing scouting report episodes, which have been doing great. I have to upload all of them individually as well. But the Florida Gators have been adding talent. And up until Kekua Aumua, we've got scouting reports for all those players. And we are now doing today Kekua Aumua, Carsyn Baker, and Marquez Daniel. Tomorrow, we will hopefully have three more in Jarayla McCoy, Javari Lucas, and Tyler Chukiam. But Kekua Aumua, 3-star tight end on 3 and 24/7. And then he's unranked on ESPN. He's also a 3-star on Rivals. Huge frame. Pretty well built. He's listed as like 6'6", 257. Very similar size to what Hayden Hansen was as a true freshman. Hayden has also grown in height, and he is also about, I think it's 20-ish pounds heavier than he was when he arrived on campus. But Kekua Aumua, similar starting point physically from what Hayden Hansen was there. Just a mover. That's like Kekua Aumua, he was coming in at that size. He's coming in to do the same things that we've seen Hayden Hansen do, right? He's here to block and contribute there. And he does exactly that. Love how he gets to the spot. I love how IMG used him. I will say that. I like how IMG used Kekua Aumua. They'll have him moving in motion at the snap behind the line and then insert into the line. You've seen him block inside the tackles, which is something that not a lot of colleges do with their tight ends unless they're starting lined up in the backfield, kind of what you'll see Tennessee do. But Florida does that with Hayden Hansen. Well, they'll put him in motion and let him block. Kekua Aumua does that with IMG. So it's similar usage there, which I do think is an important part when you're watching these high school players is, and even the NFL draft when we're talking about it, is does this player do things that we do? Can we watch film and see this player do things that we do? Watch this player be used how we are going to use him so that we know that translates. And for Kekua Aumua to Florida, yes, it does. He does have some flaws. And again, if you're new here, we're going through these notes that I have for my scouting report of these players in the order that I see them and in the order that I write them. So that's why it might seem like I'm bouncing all over the place. You are getting the best possible look at what my process looks like when I am evaluating players. I'm even using the same verbiage that I use in my written report here. Just so you know exactly my most unfiltered thoughts possible about these players. Kekua Aumua, he reaches a bit too much when he's out of position. You know, you kind of would prefer to see someone, if he misses his assignment or if he's just a little slow, you would kind of rather see him try to overcorrect using his feet and not his hands, because overcorrecting with your hands leads you to reaching and grabbing and maybe getting a penalty. Whereas if you're just trying to overcorrect with your feet and get back in front of the defender, that's a better outcome. That's a better way to go. Unless you're just straight up trying to push, like you'll see guys where edge rusher goes really wide and I don't have it, but I could just get a little push as he's trying to bend. And oftentimes you can hopefully cause a slip. But when Kekua Aumua gets out of position, you'd really like to see him correct more with his feet than with his hands, which is a super common thing for even NFL tight ends. So it's not, a killer. Again, these seem really positive. One, I loved this episode, this bunch of recruiting. Two, when I'm doing this, I'm looking more for what a kid can do, less than what a kid can't do. So it's supposed to be more positive. It's not supposed to be sunshine pumping. It's just, that's what I'm doing when I'm evaluating a player, is I'm looking for what they can do, not what they can't do. Kekua Aumua is a split zone menace, which, as many of you know, split zone read is my favorite concept in football, or just any split zone where it's, let's say, tight ends on the right side, offensive line all zone blocks to the right. Tight end runs behind the offensive line, never crosses the line of scrimmage, runs behind the offensive line, pulls through and blocks and seals the edge and gives you a cutoff lane or a cutback lane. Kekua Aumua, a killer there. He's a hammer. Love when Hayden Hansen does that as well. Josiah DeGuara with Cincinnati a few years ago. That's one of the reasons I loved his film, was the way that he operated on split zone. Kekua Aumua does a good job of, when he's in pass pro, keeping his hands in. But I would like to see him get his hands up a little quicker, less of waiting for a defender to engage with you and more of kind of bringing the pain to them. Pass pro ain't passive. And so more, that's it. Just a little bit more of getting your hands up quicker and getting more into their chest before they get to yours, which could also just be cool. He looks like he's pretty long arms. And so it could just be him saying, hey, well, even if you get your hands to me, I can get mine to you and then push away. But it's a lot easier to push them away if they're already away. So I would like to see his hands get a little bit more snappy there. Love the way that in the run game he seals off defenders. You watch IMG with him in there, and quite often when they run out wide, or even when they run to the inside and he's coming inside to block, he creates the lane. Like, he's the guy that seals it off, and the defenders can't get by him, and then the running back gets a big gain there. One of the last reps from Kekua Aumua's junior season film, it's incredibly disrespectful. And honestly, it should have been one of the first reps of the film. Because that would have been a great selling point if you're trying to sell a blocking tight end to people. That would have been a great selling point, where the edge rusher is fighting for his life, and Kekua Aumua is just one arm, just one arm pushing him there. And that's just so demoralizing. Just one arm stonewalling is just so demoralizing. But it's also a great show of what Kekua Aumua has strength-wise. And it's not just, his arm is so strong. A lot of it's his base. If you can hold that base and you've got that one arm holding him back, then that's you. Like that's you with a base. That's you having good technique and good strength. And so Kekua Aumua brings that to the table. As a route runner, which I had to go find other film because a lot of his junior film is or a lot of his junior highlight film from IMG is him blocking. But when you watch him as a route runner, does a good job of, when he's making his break, kind of sinks his hips really low, gets in and out of breaks there, tracks the ball well downfield. You watch his film, there's a couple of plays where he's completely looking over his shoulder, reeling it in, which is not an easy thing to do at all. I think people think it's a pretty easy thing to do. It's really not when you've got pads and a helmet cutting off your vision. It's not always an easy thing to pull off there. You watch the film, you could see him high point the ball, which is a thing that I think a lot of kids don't know how to do, is genuinely just go up top. Like, you're a big dude, go up top and win the battle, which we'll be talking a lot about that one in the third segment. But Kekua Aumua has super limited reps as a receiver and route runner. He's going to be pretty raw there, but build-wise, he's pretty solid. He's going to add weight. Similar. I don't think he's going to have, or not that I don't think he's going to have it, but I wouldn't project him to have a Hayden Hansen, I don't even know, glow up there where, he's getting taller and bigger. You can't project stuff like that, but you can say that Kekua Aumua already has a really solid base to build upon. Blocking is pretty good. Technique needs to improve a little bit with it, like I mentioned, his hands, but feet and pass pro really good. You've seen him on film dominate guys. He needs to learn how to be a receiving tight end. But as far as being the blocking guy, he's got it. He's already there. We are going to talk about Carson Baker, who Kekua Aumua is going to be blocking for when we get back with Locked On Gators. You ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all of my money go? Well, between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's pretty easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center, and you can track all of your accounts, all of your investments, and all of your spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year with monarchmoney.com. Thanks for being Locked On Gators, your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free. Listen to the podcast and on YouTube. And on Friday night, Carson Baker committed to Florida running back out of Georgia, 4-star everywhere, except he's a 3-star on 24/7. And the kid is just an effortless glider. There's just no, he's just an effortless glider. It's awesome to see. And by that, I mean, he's insanely fast. If you don't remember, we've talked about this before, but you know how we always talk about how fast Aiden Mizell is? Carson Baker ran the same 100-meter time, except he's a running back. And to me, that's incredibly impressive. But Carson Baker, he doesn't look like he's sprinting out there. There's some guys who it's just like they look like they're hustling. They look like they're playing the part. Carson Baker, his running style just reminded me of UCF's RJ Harvey, who home run hitter, doesn't look like he's running hard, but he's outrunning everybody. It's just sliding. And that's what Carson Baker does. So I loved watching that. And I told Brian Smith this, which I think we're going to upload this a little bit. I think a little bit later today, we're going to upload it. But I told Brian Smith, I had to look up if he played at a low level of Georgia because he was just blowing by everybody. And I was like, is he playing like bums? Like, is he playing FCS kids right now? And nope, he's playing very high level Georgia football, but he's just outrunning everyone. It's crazy. He looks good running off power and counter. You see both of those on his film. So it looks good running off that. Knows when to hit the hole. He's very patient to let his blockers get in front of him in those situations. Sometimes on the film, you can see it where sometimes the blockers looked a little bit slow. I don't know if it was the right guard pulling looked inconsistently quick. Like sometimes he got there perfectly and sometimes it looked like it took him a second. So I don't know if it was a different right guard that was rotating or whatever was going on with him, but on the film, that's what you see where sometimes it took a little bit. And I do think that with Carson Baker, sometimes you got to just get north-south, right? Sometimes it's ideal where you could wait for your blocker. But sometimes you don't have that privilege to do that. So you got to get out there. But once he gets in the open space, I don't even bother once he gets in the open space because you're not catching him. You're not. He's just insane speed. Like once he gets going, he's going. Has a sweet little jump cut that you see in the backfield a couple times where there's a defender that gets in and he gets by, kind of like not that he looks like a Jaden Ball, but similar to what we saw from the spring game in 2024 with Jaden Ball, where everybody was in love with the jump cuts. You see that a bit on Carson Baker's film. There's a few times where a defender will try to make a play, or let's say I'm getting blocked and I try to reach for Carson Baker, quick to get the hand out there and just brush it, like just hand fighting with arm tackles. Good contact balance, and he'll spin through contact. We didn't really see him, in space breakout spin moves, but he's got a defender wrapped around his waist. He'll spin through it. He's got a defender putting the shoulder low and not wrapping up, and he'll just spin off of it. You see that kind of creativity is fun, and to be able to identify what's happening and how you should react off of it, that's good. That just shows good instincts as a runner, and that's always what you want to see from a running back there. And like I said, good contact balance, just constantly fighting through contact, constantly keeping his legs churning in space, keeping going. There's a couple plays where you watch his film and he's running and he kind of Mike Gillislee's it, which I don't know if for those of you who don't remember Mike, Mike Gillislee would kind of just turn and like defenders would pile up and he would just keep backing up and he would just keep pushing, keep driving. And you see a little bit of that on Carson Baker's film for like 2 plays. Looks to bounce it outside a lot, which terrifies me. I've always been very open about that. Running backs that look to bounce it out a lot scare me because even though, and again, this is highlight film, so we're seeing the good stuff, but there's going to be times where you try to bounce it out and it doesn't work. And trying to bounce it out wide leads to big tackles for a loss, right? Like loss of 4 or 5, because you try to bounce it out and you got an SEC safety coming downhill and they make the play. So that scares me. Like that's going to burn you. But again, it's also going to lead to 75-yard touchdown runs. And so a lot of coaches at this point in the game kind of deal with it a bit, but still terrifies me. I do like how Carson Baker, there's a couple plays where you'll see him kind of running. He runs outside the tight end, inside the receiver, and it's just him and the safety. And you'll see him kind of slow down as he's making that bend, and you'll see him slow down and then speed up. And so when he slows down, the safety kind of freezes up because the safety has to be ready to adapt if he's changing direction or whatever he's doing. And once he hits that acceleration, you're not catching him. And so he'll slow down, get you to stop, and then he'll accelerate faster than you can. Because as a defender, you've got to accelerate, or you've got to stop, you've got to accelerate and turn, and you're in hell. Like, there's just no other way to put it. There were a few plays where Carson Baker was in short yardage situations, and he did just get north-south, which is promising because, again, it's easy to bounce it out wide if you're a speedy guy. Because you can go, if I can get to the edge, no one can stop me. But there are times where, even on the goal line, he just gets north-south and just goes. And love to see that on the goal line, especially. Didn't have a ton of reps as a receiver, but when he was targeted, used his body too much to catch. You need to use your hands. You can't just let it come to you and then reel it in. Like, you got to use your hands and go out and get it. And he didn't do that enough, so he needs to develop there as a pass catcher. Ankle biters got him quite a few times where it's guys, wrapped around his hips, brushes him off, and then they just get the foot around the ankle or the hand around the ankle. That got him, I think, 3 or 4 times on his film, which means that I'd imagine if that's on your highlight film getting you, I'd imagine that it gets you more. Not on your highlight film. Then comes the fun part, right? The highlight film for Carson Baker ends with him blocking. One, love a running back that's willing and able as a blocker. You see him lead blocking for his quarterback on the goal line. Love to see that. You see him blocking in pass pro. You see him as the lead blocker on a jet sweep, and he's the guy that seals the edge. Jet sweep man scores. And there's one play that isn't the last play, but I chose to make it the last note. There's a play where he's in pass pro, and the whole line crumbles right away, by the way. Like 4 people get through. Whole line crumbles, and Carson Baker turns around. There's a kid that over-pursued the quarterback. Quarterback starts scrambling. Kid over-pursues the quarterback. Carson Baker turns around, sees the kid that over-pursued the quarterback, sees that the kid's coming back to the quarterback, and Carson Baker just lights his ass up. Like, he just comes by and lights the kid up. And I loved seeing it, right? Like that's a thing where you're going to love to see, especially from a running back. It's easy where when you get beat or when someone gets by into the backfield, it's easy to kind of just throw your hands up and go, that happened. But to come back and light someone up, that's impressive. You love to see that kind of tenacity from a kid, and that was awesome to see. We have one more player to talk about today. It's wide receiver Marquez Daniel, and we're going to get to that on Locked On Gators. Thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day, we are available daily and free wherever in the podcast and on YouTube. And to wrap up today's show, we are talking about the last commit of the day, but not the last commit of the weekend. We're talking about Marquez Daniel, wide receiver, 4-star by every metric, huge frame. You put on the film, and he stands out there, and you go, okay, that is a grown man playing with middle schoolers. Like the height difference between him and a lot of other kids on the field is just crazy. Listed as 6'5", 6'6", depending on where you look. Huge frame, just again huge. Pretty good speed. I think similar to how we spoke about Justin Williams, where it's like you've got enough speed to not really get caught from behind often. I don't think he's as fast as Justin Williams, but got enough speed to not get caught from behind. But you have great acceleration to give yourself that separation. Like I can accelerate by you, and then I'm just fast enough to not really get caught on a football field. If we're running a mile, sure, you'll catch me. But if we're running on a football field, I'm fast enough to not get caught once I get by you there. And on quite a few plays, you see Marquez Daniel use the acceleration to win, which I love seeing because that means you're running with route tempo here, where I'm kind of like going 70% into my break. And you see this on, I think it's the first play of Marquez Daniel's film, where he runs kind of up and in, and he's running kind of just diagonal. And then he just breaks out on the corner, and the acceleration on the break gets him completely behind the DB. And again, once he's gone, he's gone. And so I think that having pretty good speed and great acceleration is a great mix, because once you get by, you're gone. You're not getting caught. SEC DBs, it'll probably be a bit different, similar to Justin Williams, where I'm not sure if you've got the you can't catch me speed against SEC DBs. You got it against high school DBs. That's fantastic. But I still do think that you've got enough speed to work with and enough speed to move there that you can still be a huge threat. And the acceleration is still the acceleration. Like Marquez Daniel looks like he gets to top speed quickly. And you see it on, again, a few plays there. Massive catch radius, which it's important to acknowledge also, because I think a lot of people see 6'5", 6'6", and they go, oh yeah, huge catch radius. That's not true. That's not how it works all the time, okay? It's not as simple as, oh, he's a big guy, so he's got a big catch radius. Having that big catch radius is not just being 6'5", 6'6", being able to go up and get the ball. It's being 6'5", 6'6", or even if you're not 6'5", 6'6". You could be 6'1" and have a big catch radius if you can go left and right and down to catch the ball. Radius is the halfway point of a circle there. It's if you've got that distance up, you got that distance down. Radius is for a circle. So, yeah, nerd talk. Here we go. So, even if you're 6'5", 6'6", if you can only go up, it's not a huge catch radius. You're a jump ball receiver. But if you can go low, if you can go left, if you can go right, then you've got a big catch radius. And Marquez Daniel has a big catch radius there. And it's funny to watch him play, because in his film, like, there's physical coverage. Guys are trying to bump him. Guys are trying to be physical with him, because that's what you have to do when you've got a receiver that big running at you. Right, like I've said this before, when I played, I was not, first off, I wasn't great, right? But I also am not a big dude. I'm 5'11". I played at like 180, 185. And when I would see a giant receiver, I'd be like, all right, I have to be physical with this guy. Like, I'm not a super physical person. I'm more of just going to use my eyes, use my mind, and try to make a play there. But you got to be physical with guys like that, even if you're not a big person. You've got to try to just throw them off. You can't let them get to that acceleration. Like, if he tries to accelerate and I bump him and I can throw him off, then that throws off everything. And so you see DBs try to be physical with Marquez Daniel, and he doesn't care. He doesn't. He's a disrespectful receiver, and I love that about him. Like he looks like a man amongst boys, and complete alpha. Complete alpha. There are times where, again, it's like rude to watch. I felt bad for the kids watching it. Like, I felt bad for the kids defending him while I was watching it, where he'll have a DB on him. He'll have a corner just on him. He'll have a safety near him. And you know what he's doing? He's still just throwing his hand up. Like he's an alpha receiver in that sense, where he's just throwing his hand up. Whether or not he's open, he's throwing his hand up. And if you throw him the ball, he's coming away with it. Like, it's so disrespectful, but I love it because it's going to be on my team. So I love having that, where he doesn't care who's in front of him. He doesn't care who's on him. He doesn't care who's covering. He doesn't care anything. He's just, hey, throw me the ball. Simple, throw me the ball. And when you throw it, I'm coming away with it. Like, it was also super clear that his quarterback had absolute faith in him to do it, because his quarterback did it damn near every time, where he's like, oh, Marquez's hands up, throw it up. That's not actually how I throw. I just want to make that clear. I just had to do it for the camera's purposes. But he did that. He was met at the catch point multiple times and came away with it, just bullied DBs, which I will say is a thing that I'm going to, I hate to be the downer here. I am going to be a bit skeptical of that translating, similar to when we see Hakeem Butler, we'll say. Hakeem Butler with Iowa State was a menace as a receiver. You look at the Iowa State film, and he's calling for the ball, going up over DBs, and coming away with it, and it's fine. And a lot of people with the NFL draft, myself included, went, oh, well, he could just do that. Like he could just go up and do that against people. It doesn't matter if you're covering him. When you take this step up in competition and guys are stronger, guys are faster, guys have longer arms, guys are more athletic, that changes. And so I'm not going to say that it can't translate, but I am going to say it's one of those things where I need to see it if you're not separating. Because the thing I'm not really talking about here much is his separation outside of when he accelerates. That's it. He's not winning with route running savvy. He's going out there and bullying people and outrunning some guys, but that's about it. I love that he always uses his hands. I don't think there was a single rep where I saw him let the ball come into his body. Always uses his hand as a receiver. He's a punt returner, although I don't expect him to do that at the college level, regardless if it's the SEC or not. I don't expect him to be returning punts. And the last thing I have is that I don't think he has much in his yards after catch bag other than just being bigger than people, really. But sometimes that's all you need, right? Sometimes all you need is to be bigger than people. Because like A.J. Brown for the Eagles isn't really outrunning anybody, right? Or isn't really juking many people out. He's just bigger than you. And if you're not going to meet him where you need to meet him in order to stop him, then you're not going to stop him. And so I think that Marquez Daniel, while he's not making people miss frequently, he's still getting by and he's still creating yards after the catch. It's just not the typical way. But he's not a typical receiver. You don't expect him to do things the typical way. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever it's in the podcast and on YouTube. We will be back at the absolute latest tomorrow. We should have a bonus episode with Brian Smith coming up today. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI, and I'll see you all next time.